In the romantic era of chess, players shocked their opponents with fearless gambits. Today, we're bringing back that legacy with the bishop's opening wing gambit, a fast, crushing weapon designed to overwhelm unprepared opponents. The game begins with pawn to e4, pawn to e5. Bishop to c4, and black mirrors with bishop to c5. Now we strike immediately with pawn to b4, sacrificing a pawn for rapid initiative. If black accepts the bait with bishop takes b4, we push pawn to c3, forcing the bishop back to a5. Now knight to f3, developing while eyeing the center. Black plays pawn to d6, preparing slow defense, but we don't slow down. Queen to b3, instantly pressuring the bishop on b4 and the pawn on f7. If black tries queen to e7 defending, we continue with pawn to d4, blowing open the center. Black captures pawn takes d4, but we castle kingside with rook to f1. Now black grabs another pawn with pawn takes c3. But they are falling straight into our trap. We immediately play pawn to a5, slamming the center and threatening devastating attacks. Black replies pawn to dxe5, but now we drop the hammer with bishop to a3. Suddenly, black's queen and king are under massive pressure. If black tries queen to f6 to hold on, we calmly play rook to e1, lining up a deadly attack on the pinned e-file. At this point, the engine already shows plus 3.4 for white. Total domination. Black's pieces are tied up, their king is stuck in the center, and every white piece is ready to launch the final blow. But what if black refuses to take the pawn? After pawn to e4, pawn to e5, bishop to c4, bishop to c5, and pawn to b4. Instead of capturing, black tries to stay safe with bishop back to e7. Now we strike immediately. Queen to h5, threatening checkmate on f7. Black almost always panics here and plays pawn to g6, kicking our queen. No problem. We simply capture pawn on e5, grabbing free material. If black continues with knight to f6, attacking our queen, we calmly develop with bishop to b2. And look at the position. White is a pawn up, fully developed, and ready to launch a crushing attack. The black king is stuck in the center, queenside development is frozen, and black is already close to lost. If they castle, we unleash moves like bishop to c4, knight to c3, and rook to d1 with massive pressure. Black's passive bishop move on move 3 cost them the game before it even started. This is why the bishop's opening is so dangerous. One small mistake, and white's attack becomes unstoppable. Let's take a look at a real game I played against a 1500 rated opponent, using the same bishop's opening ideas. The game starts with pawn to e4, pawn to e5, bishop to c4, bishop to c5, and pawn to b4. Black accepts the pawn with bishop takes b4. I continue with pawn to c3, and black retreats bishop back to c5. I immediately strike with pawn to d4, attacking the center. Black captures the pawn, and here comes the fireworks. I play bishop takes f7 with check, sacrificing the bishop to lure the king into the open. Black captures with king takes f7. I now play queen to h5 check, forcing pawn to g6. Then I calmly grab the pawn on c5 with check again. Black plays pawn to d6, blocking the queen. I move queen to c4, putting pressure along the light squares. Black tries bishop to e6, but now queen takes c3, winning another pawn. Black develops knight to f6. I keep building the attack with knight to g5, threatening devastating discoveries. Black plays king to g7. And now I deliver knight takes e6 check, winning the queen and leaving black's king completely exposed. From here, it's an easy win with a massive material and positional advantage. Thanks a lot for watching. If you enjoyed learning these traps and attacks in the bishop's opening, make sure to stick around. I'll be covering even more powerful openings and strategies to help you dominate your opponents. See you in the next one.